Hello, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues of the fourth estate, this press conference is now called to order. Let me once again welcome you and the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative from the Office of the President. And they will be doing a presentation which is a synopsis of outstanding reports on the activities on the extractive industry, and the report will indicate the progress that we've made so far in the extractive industry. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me once again welcome you. Let me now invite SLEITI, Sierra Leone Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, to make a presentation.
Good afternoon for giving us this opportunity, SLEITI, to present the findings of the 2012, 2013, 2014 report. I'm not here alone. I'm here with members of the SLEITI multi-stakeholder group. It happens to be the governing body of the EITI program in Sierra Leone. I have seen around the NRA representative, NMA, EPA, Audit Service, Sierra Rutile for the mining company, Shandong Steel, and Civil Society NIS coordinator. They are all here. And so after my presentation, during the question and answer time, you could direct your questions to any member of this constituency, whether it's government side or whether it's the mining companies or civil society. Also the secretariats were here to respond. For those that do not know, Sierra Leone joined the EICI 10 years ago to promote accountability and to also promote transparency in the extractive sector. And between that time and now, we have been reporting on the mining and oil and gas sector, and there are plans to move into forestry and fisheries sector. The presentation is ready, so I'll just go straight into it. That's what the outline looks like. Some information on SLEITI background, the objectives of our reports, and then the scope of work for you to appreciate the level of effort that goes into the report and to prove how credible the information in that report is. You will get highlights of the 2014 report and the other reports as well, the 2012 and 2013. And then just a brief discussion or presentation on the observations and findings of the report. The objectives of the EITI, the core objective, of course, is to promote transparency and accountability around the spending, the generation, how you get the money and how you spend the money from the extractive sector, to improve development outcomes so that government is able to provide all the social services that the citizens of the country needs. And also, we use the EITI to strengthen government systems. The EITI is not an initiative that is going to last forever. It's a tool that is meant to improve on government system. It's used to, we intend to reduce corruption and large-scale embezzlements and illicit. Where are the monies going to, and what social services, what infrastructure, and what level of investment goes into the process. So Sierra Leone is one of the 52 members of the EITI, and the functions of SLEITI is to ensure transparency. We require all companies to report, and we'll be sharing what companies have reported for the last 3 years. And we conduct independent audits It's called a reconciliation of the payments and revenue made by the extractive companies and also reported by MDAs. We ensure that we get accurate records of production costs, level of production, volume of sales, and all of those information that pertains to the extractive sector. And then we ensure that the reports are published on time, investigation is done into the discrepancies, and then we disseminate reports. We've recently been up-country disseminating all of these reports in all regions. And we also bring to the attention of government all institutional and procedural deficiencies, the lapses, the misrepresentations, the violations, and encouraged to go above. So it says that the EITI, all EITI has got to have a multi-stakeholder group that I mentioned earlier. You, in your reports, or the EITI has to ensure that there is disclosure on the legal and institutional framework about mining, about licenses and so on, contracts, disclosure, exploration, what's going on with exploration has to be disclosed, level of production, revenue collection, all of this information have to be disclosed through the EITI. It also talks about compliance and deadlines for implementing countries. These are members of the SLEITI multi-stakeholder group. The Office of the Chief of Staff, the Chief of Staff happens to be the champion and chair of the multi-stakeholder group. Then we have, in that group, we have Sierra Leone Parliament, we have MMR, we have NMA, NRA is in that group, the Audit Service, Environmental Protection Agency, we have the Local Council Association, the Ministry of Fisheries and Forestry, we have Ministry of Agriculture, Petroleum Directorate for the Oil and Gas Sector, Office of National Security, Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, Sierra Leone Chamber of Mines. The Chamber of Mines sends representatives to the MSG. Opportunities and challenges in the sector. So we have natural resources. We are well endowed with natural resources, but then there are opportunities and challenges when it comes to the governance and management of the sector. So you say the sector has the potential to accelerate economic development, generate huge revenues, and create employment. I think that's undisputable. We've seen how, you will come to see how the economy was being driven by the mining sector, and then because of the dip in commodity prices, we'll see that the contribution that this sector was making to the economy declined significantly. A challenge is capacity building required for MDAs to regulate the extractive companies and to monitor compliance. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in this area. A lot of institutions have been created, the NMA, there is a lot of work going on in the MMI and all of the ministry, to ensure that the sector is well regulated, but then there still needs to be capacity to be able to properly regulate the sector and to make sure that the mining companies, comply. There's infrastructural deficits. We still have to improve on our roads, the electricity supply and water and so many other resources that are needed. So this is just a graphical illustration of the contribution of mining to the economy. It says mines contribution to GDP. So it was rising in 2011, it peaked in 2012. Then because of the Ebola, it started to decline. The commodity prices, it started to decline. And then the big hit was experienced in 2014 and even in 2015. We don't have figures yet for 2016. So we're in 2017 now, and those figures are still being carefully compiled. But we see the downward trend of the mining to the economy. What is the Reconcile reports about? The reports that we're here to talk about. It collects, analyzes, and prepares aggregate payments made by extractive companies to the government. And then through the report, we are also able to act on lessons learned through the reconciliation process. What processes need to be improved, what MDs need to do to improve on their collection procedures, and all of that happens through the reconciliation, the reconcile report. So like I said earlier, to get an appreciation of what goes into the report production, I'll just go briefly through this. There are two stages, the information gathering stage and then the reconciliation stage. In the first stage, that's when, so on a year-to-year basis, the multi-stakeholder group has to engage the services of a credible and independent auditing firm. We've used firms from different countries. The last three reports were produced by a Ghanaian firm, the 2012 by Video in Sierra Leone, and then we've had other firms producing the reports for the earlier years. So there's this interaction takes place with reporting timelines established between the reporting entities on the side of the companies, on the side of government, and then there's a scoping study done that I'll talk about in a minute, and then the documents review, all our documents, all our previous reports, whether it's reconciliation, validation reports, annual progress reports, all of those reports from the companies and all of that are reviewed. And then the scoping parameters are set. So for every year, for every report, there has to be a threshold because we're aware that there are so many mining companies over, Mr. Ba, about roughly how many mining companies?
Exploration is over 200.
Over 200. You see, so we cannot conduct reconciliation for all of those companies. We have to only take the material companies, the companies that when you add their payments, it comes up to something like 90% contribution to total revenue from the sector. And so we establish the threshold. And we determine the entities that will be involved on the side of companies. So it's sometimes 20, it's sometimes 18, sometimes a little lower. But we like the number to be a little higher. The MSG has always said that. So you keep an eye on the companies probably that are in exploration that will soon go into mining. And then the multi-stakeholder group agrees on the reporting templates, the relevant revenue streams, because there are so many revenue streams. But again, the MSG is selective and has to be careful to make sure that you don't have too much work, that the report never comes to an end. And then you do the templates. And then after that, after you issue the templates to all the MDs that collect revenues from the extractive sector, including the chiefdom and the district councils, you collect the templates. All of these government templates have to be certified by the Audit Service Sierra Leone. The companies too, we collect their templates after certification by the external auditors, and then there is a reconciliation process. And then you see the initial reconciliation. What are the differences? Who reported more? Who reported less? And then the reconcile, the independent administrator, that's what they call the firm that produces. That's the EITI name. It used to be reconciler before. So they go after whichever party has got is of interest to them, whether you reported too much or the other side reported too less. There's a reconciliation process. And then the discrepancies are investigated. What were the causes? Most of the time, companies have to bring more evidences, more receipts. On the side of government, the same thing happens. Then there's the draft. The draft has to be reviewed by the MSG. There's a technical committee. It's also sent to other stakeholders to help review it. And then after all the comments come in, the final report is produced. Again, the EITI in Sierra Leone is covering only two sectors for now, which is the mining and the oil and gas sector. So these are the revenue streams. I'm sure it's familiar to most of you. The exploration license, the mining license, the surface rent. This is for the for mining. The royalty, corporate tax, environmental license fee, the EPA monitoring fees, the diamond exporters license, the export duty on diamonds, the agricultural development fund, and the community development fund. So these are the streams for the oil and gas. Some look similar, like the ones paid to EPA. Then they have surface training fund, because this is a new area. This is an area that requires a lot of technology. So companies do pay these monies to the Petroleum Directorate to provide training for whether it's college students, whether it's members of the staff, and so on. Signature bonus, technology bonus, extension fee. These are all payments made by the companies to the Petroleum Directorate, and then sale of geophysical data. This is the data that is kept by a company that's offshore called TGS Nobel. We requested them to report, but then Sierra Leone does not hold this data. It is held by this company, and there's a sharing formula. Work will be done eventually for the directories to have the infrastructure to hold this data. And so companies that want to do exploration, they buy the data to help them make their decision on the block that is of interest to them. The threshold for the 2014 report was 100,000, meaning all the companies that paid a total of $100,000 and above were the ones that were asked to report. And then for the oil and gas, it was all the companies. In the past, really, all of the oil and gas companies, their payments were significant, but we're seeing a decline in that. And then the accounting system is cash basis, implying that if the ministry, if the company pays money to the government and to a specific ministry in 2014, and that money was paid in 2015, the company can report because they actually paid it, but the recipients didn't receive it, the chiefdoms and so on, they didn't receive it. So they cannot report on it because we're not dealing with accrual basis, it's cash basis. So it's only what you receive in that particular year, that's what you report on. So I'll explain how the reconciliation is. You have to match the figure. What government said they received for royalty, what did the company say they paid for royalty? What did the government say they received for surface rents? What did the chiefdom receive, and so on? What did the company pay to them? So it's that kind of reconciliation and you do your investigation. So these are the list. I'm sure it's not clear to everyone, but reports. And so the revenue from the mining also was far higher than the oil and gas.
They don't clap for people. They are here to gather the news, you know, and they are not here to applaud you for your presentation. So thank you once again, and colleagues of the Fourth Estate, you have listened with extreme concern the presentation that has just been made. Let me now throw the ball into your court.
Resident journalist, resident us, the relationship, enemy, the mineral, ministry, your relationship, can I get it? And then secondly, what's the clear cut between you and TGS Topec? Because it seems as if TGS Topec is not working again. I know for sure when TGS Topec came into this country in the days of Chidankaba.
According to the presentation she said that there was no revenue collection. We want to know why there is no revenue collection for now, according to the presentation.
Without going into the details, I want to come to exactly where I said his times are numbered. I want some clarification into that statement.
His times are
talking about Charles Magai. His times are numbered because in an event, something happens with Charles Magai in the not too distant future. Don't you think that statement could come in very handy? And anybody could answer that question.
Of course, his days are numbered.
Anybody could answer this question. I just want a yes or no answer. Does Israel do any mining? Yes or no answer? People for not being up to date with the information. The minister was up to date with the information. He should know that Israel is into mining and every other thing.
Let me make it exclusively clear that Optia is a multinational mining company. It is not exclusively an Israeli-owned or government-owned company operating in Sierra Leone. So the minister was quite right in telling you that Israel has no mining interest in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
I just want to answer maybe two questions. The one relating to TGS Snowpack. Somebody was saying that TGS Snowpack was here since the days of Sudan Kaba, and now the report says there's no revenue being reported for TGS Snowpack. Well, from my own knowledge, TGS Snowpack came in 2014 and they embarked on seismic survey. Seismic survey is just temporary, not even exploration activity. They don't conduct explorations. So, we reported TGS Snowpack for 2014 and also 2014. Then by that time, they've gone because their mission was over in Sierra Leone. But I can also remember that there was a time when the Ministry of the Sierra Leone government signed an MOU with the government of Norway for support towards a submission Sierra Leone was supposed to make to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. You know, Sierra Leone wanted to expand, to extend the limit of the continental shelf. But before you do that, and before you do that submission to the United Nations, you have to do a geophysical survey. And then the Norwegian government had to bring in a vessel to help Sierra Leone to conduct that survey for that submission. So I think like either TGS Snowpack or another company was also involved. For the clarification, somebody said they wanted clarification on discrepancies of 5 million. Well, in the SLEITI reporting, there are two types of discrepancies, the positive and the negative discrepancies. Now, the one minor reported was the positive discrepancies because company says we have given government of Sierra Leone 5 million. Then government of Sierra Leone reported 6 million. So did they pay more? No. Do you understand that? So it might be some kind of accounting error. So no, it may be. If you have said you have given me 5 millions, but I'm reporting 6 millions, so is it embezzlement or what? No. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much. My name is Mohamed Ba. I'm the Chief Inspector of Mines. Basically, the question regarding discrepancy, let me clear this up because I started people talking about ACC. We are not yet to that, please. This is about company reporting how much they've paid to government. Government also reports how much they've received, not expenditure. Okay? Good. Basically, for London Mining, she reported that London Mining did not report. And the total amount was $4.369 million. They did not report does not mean they've taken the money out. They've paid the money to government. Government have reported on that. But there is nobody in the office to report on that amount. So we issued out a template, but no reports received from them. Just like what she said, there are penalties which she will have to highlight, and then they will have to take action on London Mining. For Edo Holdings, they've made a royalty payment of $920,000. Government reported that. But however, Bank of Sierra Leone misplaced that amount to the PMT. Hold on, misplaced. You need to shout. Misplaced me. They misplaced the amount to a different account. So that money has been replenished again to the Consolidated Revenue Fund because that money was sent to PMT. PMT is within the NMA. Precious Minerals Trading Department. So we have sent the money back to the Consolidated Revenue Fund, and there is a letter, and I can confess to that, confirm. There is another payment of $177,000 paid by Sierra Minerals Holdings. That is for CDF. Government does not report on CDF. It is the company and the community. So the company reported that they made this payment. Government does not have anything to do with CDF. CDF basically deals with Community Development Fund. There is another payment of $582,931, which is also CDF paid by African Minerals. It stated clearly, the reporter actually sees that money left African Minerals, but it is still within the same bank. Government did not receive CDF. So we reported on all the money received. Okay? So this money of $582,931 is still within the bank because the CDA structure has to be established. CDA, that is the Community Development Agreement. It has to be established down where these mining operations are taking place. It's a relationship between the company and the community. There has to be a community development committee. There has to be a community development account before that money will be placed into that account. So the company still has that money. It is seated within the company's account. Government did not receive that money. So basically, those are clarifications. As of the companies failing to submit reports, like I said, there are not many. You have London Mining. You have Trillium International Offshore. Okay? They had a mining license and they paid $500,000. Government reported that we received $500,000. We submitted the reports to SLEITI. But Trillium did not report that they actually paid $500,000 because the report was sent to them, they did not complete that form. So that is a positive discrepancy, just like what he was mentioning. If it was the other way around, then you start asking a lot of questions. So here, talking about transparency and accountability, we have actually disclosed all what we received. So it's just a matter of getting the figures right.
Probably, I'm Cecilia Masia, coordinator for the National Advocacy Coalition and Activism. We are civil society on this whole process, and we think we are on this process with the journalists. We expect the media not to be talking on these issues because you have a representative on the MSG as journalists across the country. Most of the discrepancies we are talking about, that's the beauty of the idea. Our interest, the journalists and civil society, should be interested in the transparency and accountability bit, where they talk about how much government receives, how much government pays. You and I should now be asking, our next step is, what are you doing with the money? How much is going to this? How much? I mean, that's where we'll be getting to. But getting to those discrepancies, like they are saying, positive and negative, one of the, I think the recommendations or things we are looking at is that there is no one-stop shop for payment of these revenues. And we are also getting problems with those. Because there are some companies who pay directly to the chiefs, some at the local level, some companies who pay directly into the consolidated fund, some companies who come to NRA. These are the problems we are getting into the revenue streams. So by the time you come and say report, NRA should get track of all of those. You find chiefs, councils, and MPs are also reporting. You find all of these reporting templates, which everybody reports. Unlike Ghana, it's a one-stop shop. Everything comes to central government and is being disbursed. But we'll get there. So, I mean, we can't do everything here. But I guess media or journalists who are really interested into the economics or the revenue bits or they're interested into these issues should take it to business. Taxation, revenue issues, to really look at, because there are now 3 reports. I had somebody ask, why did we come with the report late? Why are they coming now? When they pay, like some of these reports, you notice the 2012 report, monies were paid like in 2012, but if they pay like in August, by the time it reflects, go through the banking system, we are like in January 2013. So by the time the person is reporting, if it's you, you only report when you receive the money. You cannot report that that money was sent when you have not gotten it. So that is why we are now reporting, we are backtracking those reports. And you find those discrepancies. But it's good to whet your appetite as journalists, because a good number of times I've challenged journalists that there's a lot of armchair journalism going on. Let's start doing the work so that you see politicians talking and we are laughing. We are giving them the space to talk the way they are talking. Yes. Journalists and civil society should now make them walk and talk. We should make them really walk and talk. That's where we should be coming. So let's not allow the journalists to be taking the stage. We have moving forward. Let's set the stage.
Yes. Can I just comment? The extractive industries revenue unit at the NRA. I just wanted to comment on a few things with regards to discrepancies. Mr. Bardell alluded to a discrepancy from Koedu Holdings. The company reported that they paid $920,547. That was not reflected in the report, so it accounted for a discrepancy. Now, just to give you an idea, this is concrete proof, an idea of the investigation we go to, the length to which we go to make these things right. So the NRA, I can show you a letter here that we wrote. The NRA wrote a letter to PMT. She was talking of PMT. PMT is the office that used to be called the Government Gold and Diamond Office. It used to be called GDDO. Now it's called PMT. It's now called the Precious Minerals Trading. So we wrote a letter that we noticed from the EITI Constellation of 2014 that there was a discrepancy. Payment was made from New York to GT Bank by Koedu. That was supposed to have been credited to the NRA's account, mine's account. What happened was it was paid to GDDO's account. So when we were doing the reconciliation, it did not come out as a payment by Koedu. It was in a different account anyway. So we asked for clarification. This is a clarification from NMA. We have the evidence to say this money was paid indeed. This is the bank statement. And this bank statement is from Bank of Sierra Leone for information. So this was the money that was paid, but it was paid to the wrong account. So we asked, and the credit was reversed. That is one discrepancy that relates to the NRA. Another one was royalties. Let me just give you an idea of the kind of payments, because not everything is paid to the NRA, please. The NRA collects royalties. We collect license fees, the exploration license, mining license. We collect domestic taxes, would be your payroll, PAY, and we do collect customs duties. And you heard from the presentation that they look for what is called a materiality threshold. That is the amount of money people pay that is significant enough. So, along that vein, the only category of revenue streams that is significant or that meets the threshold are non-tax revenues, which are just the mining license and your royalties. So there's a discrepancy by Sierra Rutile. Government reported that Sierra Rutile paid more than what the company reported. Yes, it's very possible. Look at it this way. And it's a royalty payment. According to the law, when a company ships, say, iron ore or rutile, as the case may be, you have 45 days before you can report in time. So I can ship today, say, January, just guess, say in November, I make a shipment. When I'm reporting, I'm going to report as a company for that year, in November. Or maybe the payment only came in to NRA or another government agency, maybe in February of the next year. So those are all possibilities. So discrepancies do not tend to normally just mean that the money has been eaten or you just embezzled it. If you do thorough investigation, you can get to the bottom of some of those issues. Thank you very much.
EITI standard allows for data in EITI reports to be 2 years old, not older than 2 years. However, this is a minimum standard. Countries can bring up their reporting to 1 year old. And that's what we're aspiring for in our next report. Our next report will cover a 2-year period. You cannot just end the year and produce a report for that same year, because companies need time to put their books in order, and the audit service themselves, the government will have to do the same thing, put their records in order, and after they've completed the template, the audit service alone that does the certification, they too need time to go through this process of certifying the template. But because the EITI uses the audited data, our own reporting, our own certification has to wait until the audit service conduct their normal audits within their mandates. So these are some reasons why you can't have the report instantly after the year ends. We will come up to 1 year. It's 2 years now. We are going to come up to 1 year. And about 19 companies were identified for this study, the 2014 reports, and 3 didn't. Mr. Ba has explained that already. We have to look into I think mainly 2 of these companies that didn't report, because Cape Lambert, they're still around. We issued them the template and followed by so many emails and visitations, but they didn't complete the template. And the other company, which is Stallion, they said they've closed, and they wrote us a letter to the effect that they are no longer around. So this is the beauty of the EITI process. You've already had discrepancy. Doesn't mean corruption. It means it's sometimes as a result of the way documents are processed and the differences in time. Those are factors that can lead to discrepancies. There will be, the EITI for now doesn't have a law, so there are no direct penalties. However, if a company fails to report, the mines and mineral resources and the NMA, they are all on the MSG multi-stakeholder group. They are going to take up the issue with the companies, and appropriate actions are channeled through these bodies instead of SLEITI itself. Is there any question that has not been answered?
The relationship with the NMA and
the NMA, all of these entities, the agencies that regulate the sector, those that collect revenue, they are members of the multi-stakeholder group, and that's the governing body of the EITI, and I work for the Secretariat. So, I mean, these 3 parties, they don't agree on everything, but they disagree to agree. That's the beauty of the process.
Yeah, we're coming close to the end, so let me just entertain a few questions. Yes, that's the difference. Yes, Mozart.
Ali Mozart to say, editor of before I ask my question, the man was responding to, or was showing us some document that failed to give us the figure. Though I tried to ask, what was the figure, because you can't just be flashing us for showing us empty sheets. And I picked from, your introduction or your statement, the impact, corporate, tax was, not felt, right? Impact corporate tax was not felt. Now, coming to the question of, corporate, social responsibility or whatever. Who evaluates or who monitors, this corporate taxes, for example? And where do we see multi-million-dollar companies, constructing, tiny structures in the name of corporate social responsibilities, and the media, we as journalists also, for example, blowing those informations, haywire and so forth. Who evaluates actually, impact, the corporate taxes?
Let me just answer that. Thank you very much. No, listen, let's just deal with it. Probably it will come in, it will fall in place. That's where the media, I said, we now should start working. Because corporate responsibility and corporate social responsibility are two different things. Corporate responsibility is legislated. That's the fiscal regime within any agreement that
corporate tax.
Corporate tax. Corporate tax, yes. That goes, okay.
No. I was just gonna come in as a company because
she's from Shandong.
Sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Mina McFoy. I'm from Shandong Steel. And these two words, the meanings are always interchanged. You've got corporate taxes, as Cecilia was saying, that's legislated. It has nothing, it has something to do with the company and the government. Whereas corporate social responsibility, these are the company's own in-kind support to the communities, and these are out of the goodness of your hearts. What I always say is, when I started with African Minerals, I used a common thing for the common man. You have your palm oil business where you're selling the market, and you're paying your taxes to the local council. You've paid that taxes as a palm oil seller. I'm not comparing the palm oil seller with the big companies, but I'm just giving you something to think about. And you've paid your taxes to the local council. Out of the goodness of your heart as a palm oil seller, you see a young girl walking the streets, and you decide to help that young child, maybe her family, through her education. That's out of the goodness of your heart, and that is regulated by us, the companies. We look at what we make in terms of our profit from the expenses, from the investments we've made, what profits we get. We look at that, and that's what we invest. And from the presentations Minor did, it showed, and I'm going back to African Minerals. African Minerals as a company, it was the biggest, and it paid the highest taxes in terms of everything. Corporate, no, it wasn't paying corporate because it hadn't come to that, but it paid PAYE, it paid royalties. It was always the highest paid because it was the biggest company at that time. In terms of the corporate social responsibility at the time as well, just because it was added doesn't mean we did not do something. The monies that were spent, fortunately at that time of African Minerals, I was part and parcel of that. Over millions of dollars went into, Cecilia, I thank you that you said the media house. Please go into these local communities and find out. It's good for you to talk to the companies, but also go back into the local communities and find out what's been given to them. Things like the surface rent, the amount that's been given, what have the communities done with it? Yeah? Sometimes they will say it's not much. But yes, for any child, you have to crawl, you have to learn to walk, and then you walk before you run. You cannot expect a business that's coming. Look at, if you have chance, go in and look at the investment, the capital investments that were made by these companies. All of these assets are left in Sierra Leone. They will not take them out again. Until they actually start making real profit, there is not much they would do. But as a company at that time, they did, out of the goodness of their heart, apart from all the taxes they were paid, levied by them by government, they did out of the goodness of their heart. And out of the person who was there heading it, because he was a Sierra Leonean, he made sure communities had benefited from whatever the company came in. So please, differentiate between the two. Corporate tax is legislated. Hold on. Corporate tax is legislated. They will never understand that. And
probably moving forward on corporate social responsibility, the new message is, and I want the media to follow up. Whether it's for the board, let's move forward, connect. If you want this document and you go to SLEITI, you don't have it, moving from here, whenever you go to SLEITI office you don't have, you come to us or to NMA, we will have it. Let me come. CDA, because of this corporate social responsibility, which companies can say we have done billions and this, which NEMA is challenging you to go, what civil society has pushed for is for the creation and establishment of this community development agreement. Very soon, I think Rutai has signed, or they will be signing. The Mexico has signed. We have set up the community development committees. So all of these monies that they now call corporate social responsibility will soon stop. From now on, they will stop. It will now go as community development agreement. The fund will now go into the accounts of the community.
As a minor, I have to explain this properly. Now, the question basically was referring to, please, can we have it?
No, please.
You want to understand?
Just a minute, sir.
Pay attention. If you are inattentive, you miss the nitty-gritties of the essentialities. So in order to grasp the nitty-gritties of the essentialities, you need to pay attention.
Thank you very much, sir. The question the man was asking was why the delay in corporate tax? Please, let's get clear. If you go into the report, most of these companies, they have not yet paid corporate tax. It's different from corporate social responsibility. You have to understand this. Corporate tax is basically tax of profit. Okay? Up to now, 2014, because we have a report for 2014, companies have not yet paid corporate tax in 2014 because they did not make profit. Because profit is after expenditure, they make a profit. Okay? So let's forget about that. For corporate social responsibility, please, she already mentioned about the CDA. There is already a community development agreement model, which companies are now signing to. Okay? It's between the community and the company. That eventually will be enacted, will be completed, signed by the minister, and it becomes a law. And the CDA, there will be a CDF, which is also in the lease agreement. I don't know how many of you have looked at our website, the www.nma.gov.sl. There are lease agreements which you can download. You need to go and source information. You'll see exactly how much money each company is required to pay annually on the total sales of their proceeds. That would have to go to the CDF. Those structures we are now beginning to put in place, which is different, and it's a law eventually when the agreement is signed. It's just a supplementary to their lease agreement. For corporate social responsibility, even if you have the CDA in place, you pay all your taxes. If you want to do more, you can still do more. Okay? Please. So you have to bear in mind, we are learning and we have to understand the processes. All the taxes that are required by law, the company should pay, they are required to pay. If the time has not yet come for them to pay, they will not pay. That's why you didn't see any corporate tax in the report.
Yeah, we want to draw the curtains down on this question and answer session.
Thank you very much.
And we also want to draw the curtains down for today. And mind you, the Sierra Leone Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative Secretariat is open to you all at any time for further questions. Thank you for coming and thank you for your attention.